Hello and welcome to the Ringer NBA Show Postgame Live. I'm your host, staff writer at the Ringer, Logan Murdock. As always, by my side, I got Raja Bell, staff writer, curator of vibes. We got somebody new. It's like we had a mashup a couple weeks ago with the mismatch, and now we have another mashup show. Raja, we got Kevin O'Connor in the building. What's popping, bro?
I'm looking forward to it, guys. What a game, man. What a game.
What a game, man. And the player of the game is Tyler Herro, who put on heroic performance in game 4. He had 37 points on 14 of 21 from the field. I want to start off, but I'm going to get a player's take to start this off. Raja, what did you think about this performance, and did you see this coming?
I didn't see it coming. I knew he could play. That stage that he was on in a 2-1 series, pivotal game 4. That's a big stage to have your kind of crowning moment and put your stamp on rookie of the year. I should have probably been in the conversation for rookie of the year, but I was kind of overshadowed. Like, he's got that type of talent, but no bigger stage to do it on. And that's what separates men from boys in the NBA. Whether you can do it on that stage, when the lights are bright, when all the chips are pushed into the middle of the table, and Tyler Herro couldn't have done it at a better time for the Heat. It was pretty dope.
And it's not like his 37 points came off of just, some spot up threes, some open layups and transition. It was Euro steps in the lane, hesitations, pull-ups off a dime, 3-pointers off the dribble, and he made good passes in addition to just moving off ball. He did everything. Like, he checked the star boxes for what you look for from a young player that has a chance to become a top-level scorer. Like, he looked like Devin Booker, the guy he idolizes. He looked like C.J. McCollum, a bigger C.J. McCollum.
Fully in his bag. Fully in his bag, 100.
I think the biggest thing that we see all the time, and Kevin, you kind of touched on it, was his confidence level and how he's not afraid of any moment. This is a guy that was picked 13th in the draft. What is it about the Miami Heat and this culture that is such a perfect place for him? And why do they love him so much in Miami?
I mean, with Herro, like, it's the type of thing, well, him and Bam, you have two guys drafted mid-first round that you look back at, and it's so easy to say in hindsight, this guy should have been drafted higher. But with Tyler Herro, he showed flashes of this at Kentucky, but it's another Kentucky guy like Booker and others who have came before him and after, where they just don't show everything that they can. But with Herro, like, you also have to give credit, and this is probably why Heat fans love him so much, is like, he has gotten better throughout the year. I mean, it's fun to say he didn't make all rookie first team, or he wasn't even in the rookie of the year conversation, but I think he's one of those guys that has gotten better since March to where he is now. Like, we've seen that across the league. It's an extension of the same 1920 season, but in many ways it's a new season, and Herro's made a leap here.
Raja, Kevin brought up a great point about the draft process and not usually seeing all of a player in college. When you were in the executive team, you were in the front office before. What is it like? What do you see in a player that makes you think, oh, he's going to be at this level, even when you don't see it all in college?
Yeah, it's a tough thing, and it's why quite frankly people miss on guys all the time. Calipari. To some degree, the Mike Krzyzewskis, they get so much talent in their building that those guys all have to buy into playing specific roles and taking a little bit, less of the lion's share of scoring or playmaking duties just to make it all work. And so it's kind of hard to sift through that when they've got so much more to give. What I would say is, when you get them in your building, when you're putting them through their workouts, like, the pre-draft is a good place to see some of these guys do some things that might be outside of their normal role for their college team. You get to see them in more open pickup type of style. But when you get them in your building and you suspect that a guy has more in his tank than he showed at Kentucky or Duke or St. John's, whatever the school may be, you're putting them through, or you're talking to your coaches about putting them through drill work that can either corroborate that or disprove the theory, right? And so that's when you can really start digging into whether that guy has way more of a skill set than you could have ever imagined or not.
Kevin, why did – I know hindsight is 20/20, and if you can go back and redo this draft, Tyler Herro would probably be a top 10, maybe a top 5 pick. Why do you think top 5 for sure? Yeah. Why do you think he fell so much in this draft?
I think it was just some questions about the well-roundedness of his game, the defensive ability, streakiness as a shooter sometimes, even though he had a super high free throw percentage and, had touch. I mean, I look back at my own evaluation and you look at like the strengths and weaknesses and it's like, yeah, I mean, it's accurate, but where I had him ranked, I think low teens or even maybe 2021 on my board last year. I'm like, maybe I looked at those weaknesses too much instead of just seeing a guy who clearly had shot creation ability with a good size frame and the potential to be a knockdown shooter. Like that alone is a baseline for success in the modern NBA. And sometimes I feel like when it comes to the draft, we focus a lot on what a guy can't do, and not, it's a cliche, but instead of rather what they can do. And Herro could do a lot of things, even though his role didn't allow him to fully blossom at Kentucky. I think it's just another classic case of focusing too much on what he couldn't do when he's just a teenager.
Yeah. Well, how much do you think, Raja, when you see a player like Tyler Herro, but he's on a team like the Miami Heat, a great organization, an elite organization, how much does that help? Because I feel like going into the season, he didn't have that much pressure on him. You got Jimmy Butler on the team. You have Goran Dragic. You have a good, solid nucleus already. How much does that help a young player already when you can have a system like that?
I don't want to say that Tyler Herro wouldn't be doing what he was doing today if he wasn't with the Heat. That's not fair to Tyler Herro. Obviously, he's a great player, but being put in a situation where you're in a first-class organization that has an established culture, they have a track record of player development, and you've got great vets around you, can only help your arc as a player, and that it expedites your ability to become a good pro and get to, winning basketball and producing and winning type of situation. So you can't discount it, because that's why you see guys like at the Spurs, the Heat, consistently put out guys that are able to come into the league and within 2 years, a year, 2 years, they're able to produce. And then on the flip side of that, and I don't mean to, disparage anybody's, program there, but you got guys that go to Cleveland. No, but I mean, you got Sacramento's, your Cleveland's, your Minnesota's to some degree. It takes longer because that culture isn't in the building. You don't have that Pat Riley figurehead and Eric Spoelstra and guys that they bring in to fit the mold. And then you don't have the vets in your building to make sure that those guys are doing what they're supposed to do. So I think it's all helped Tyler. He's a fantastic player, but the Heat was a great fit for him.
And also like just the system itself too. The system with the ball movement and the cutting, the coming off screens, like it is tailor made to what Tyler Herro is good at. I mean, he got drafted into like a good basketball system and a good culture system as well. I mean, he won in both ways there.
No doubt.
I do want to get back to this culture question. And Raja, being in locker rooms, what is good culture in an organization and what is bad culture? Can you cite some examples of each? Like, well, how do we know something is a great culture versus when we know it's not so great and you see it on the floor?
Yeah, well, I think, good culture, it always starts from the top, right? And so when you have someone who can command respect, who has won, like a Pat Riley, and then, an Eric Spoelstra at the top, and they're preaching a consistent message and they're holding people accountable. That's how you start to create culture, right? Like, we're not really letting anyone slide. When LeBron came to Miami, LeBron wasn't allowed to have his people on planes because that's the way the Heat did things, right? And so, there have been other places where LeBron is allowed to have people on planes, but the Heat do it the Heat way. They establish the culture and they hold everybody accountable. And you have to kind of fit the mold of what they do. That's how you start to develop it. And then you bring in good, high character guys that know how to work, know how to be in a gym, know how to take the young Tyler Herros and the Bam Adebayos and show them the ropes the right way, which is being about basketball first and the rest of it taking care of itself, not putting the cart before the horse and thinking I made the NBA, it's time to get it in. And, there's a lot of distractions that come with being in the NBA. And so there are organizations that do that. And there are others like the Heat. And again, I'll reference San Antonio, Golden State. Those guys come in there and they've got great foundations of vets. They've got good coaches and they've got great management that kind of put everything in line. And therefore young players get in line and they learn how to be good pros.
Yeah. And I'm looking in the YouTube comments. There's a lot of Kevin O'Connor puns right now. We need to stop with the Kevin O comments. We need some real questions.
Just to add
so do that on the
YouTube. To add to what Raja said there, it's interesting with Miami because like with this entire organization, they have sought out finding players that fit that mindset as well. This seems like an entire organization from the top to the players, the last guy on the bench, that is geared and wired to play with this real hard-nosed, gritty attitude. And with Boston, they can turn that on. We see that from them. But it feels more of an on-off thing with the Celtics, like where you see Marcus Smart getting into his team because it had to happen. With the Miami Heat, that doesn't seem like a thing that has to happen because everybody always plays that way all the time. Even in the game that they lost, they still played that way. And that's a testament to the organization finding those guys and obviously the players themselves as people with who they are and how that manifests on the court.
Kevin, a question for you. When we already talked about the product of Miami, but let's talk about the future of Miami. With Tyler Herro balling out of control, like there is a cap situation for them that they will have a lot of money off the books in about a year or so. Can you tell us a bit more about that and how the Miami could be a player going forward?
I mean, pretty much the only guys with guaranteed deals entering the 21-22 season are going to be Jimmy Butler and Tyler Herro.
He'll still be on a rookie deal too, right?
Still be on a rookie deal. So the Miami Heat, we're talking about a team that right now with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and Tyler Herro and Goran Dragic are one game away from the NBA Finals. And they could very well win it the way this team is playing and the players they're equipped with. But also, they aren't going away. This isn't a one-hit wonder here. They can only get better with their youth and flexibility moving forward. We're witnessing the birth of something special right here with this Heat organization.
So you think that he can beat the Lakers or the Nuggets and win an NBA championship this year?
I don't think you can rule that out. Not with this defense, the amount of ways they can play. I mean, I picked the Lakers in the series. I picked the Lakers to win the NBA Finals before the year. I'd stick to that now, regardless of the opponent that comes out of the East, and obviously looking like the Heat. But you can't rule that out, not with everything we're talking about, all the good that they have. Guys that can go off on any night like Tyler Herro, they have those sparks, and they have the star in Jimmy Butler.
Roger, what do you think about that right now? Because I see you.
I'm
I see you
ruling
looking
that
right
out.
now.
I'm ruling that out. No, KOC's got, I mean, those are good points. And I think to be fair to the Heat, like you cannot absolutely rule that out. But I'm with him in that the Heat are great. I think they could really pose some problems for the Lakers, but ultimately I think their kryptonite would be those two stars. I think that LeBron and AD, that's what you would, you need to be able to match that to some degree. And I think you see a Miami team, and I don't want to take anything away from what they're doing, but Jayson Tatum wasn't a star tonight. He had 28, but he wasn't a star. He didn't do what stars do. And if he's not going to be the star for your team, like Kemba hasn't played like a star almost all playoffs. So they're beating teams. They're doing a great job, but they don't have this. That's not LeBron and AD. That's a different animal. And so I don't believe that they could beat the Lakers.
Isn't that sort of the difference between, Tatum right now and the level that the Celtics would hope that he can someday reach? LeBron and AD and even Jokic and Murray to an extent have just been a tier above Tatum this postseason. As awesome as Tatum has been, there's still some missing pieces there, getting to the basket, drawing fouls, because that's the ingredient for, a great scorer becoming an elite scorer is the ability to get to the basket consistently and draw contact and finish the contact oftentimes. And Tatum doesn't quite have that yet. He loses the ball on drives a lot, but Jokic is better, if it's Denver in the finals. Murray has been better with his high scoring performances. And obviously LeBron and AD, they are who they are.
I know Tatum, they always go ahead, Roger. You have something to say?
No, I was going to say, it was interesting. I was having this conversation the other day with a buddy of mine who I respect his basketball opinion, and we were talking about he's a big Carmelo fan, and I said to him, it's going to be really interesting to watch Jayson Tatum over the next few years to see if he can become that type of star that his point production, and he's really gifted scoring the ball, can translate into real wins and advancement in the playoffs, or it becomes more like the Melo situation where you're going to remember him as just a really, really gifted scorer and not really able to advance his teams. It's going to be a really interesting conversation that plays itself out over the next, 3-4 years, 4 or 5 years.
I don't know. Carmelo, that's a whole discussion for another day. I think Carmelo gets a bad rap in a lot of different ways. He's still a Hall of Famer, doesn't get treated like one. But I do want to get to something else defensive wise from this game. There was a lot of zone being played, guys. I know how Raja feels about the zone. I know how I feel about the zone. KOC, what do you think about this Miami zone on the Celtics? We don't see this in the NBA a lot. Not on this stretch. Zone is usually to throw off an opponent and throw off their offensive game. It's never played to this extent. Why?
It's
Why
wild.
now?
2 years ago, entering the 2018 playoffs, I wrote a story like, wanna, mess it up, for an opponent, get them out of their rhythm, throw some zone at them. And it was based on Kenny Atkinson and the Nets using zone against the Houston Rockets 2 seasons ago. And Atkinson said at the time that he sort of looks at it as like a breaking ball, a slider, a curveball to throw at the opponent and take them out of what they do, throw them off rhythm, make them think, or a boxer switching stances from orthodox to southpaw. And I think what we're seeing right now in the NBA is that it is even more than that. It can become one of your base defenses, because in today's league, with how potent offenses are, and by the way, how much the officiating favors offense as well, the key to successful defense, we saw this from Toronto last year, saw it again this year, seeing it again across the league, is variety from your defense. And from Miami, being able to play different types of zones and then go back to man constantly changes what an offense is thinking and what they're having a game plan for.
Raja, what do you think about this?
Well, I think it's brilliant that Eric Spoelstra is. I shouldn't say brilliant, but I think it's pretty dope that he's sticking to the guns regardless of the situation, right?
Because
like
he's going to get shade. He's going to get shade off.
Who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. And to some degree, it's a jab at Brad Stevens. Like, look, you're supposed to be this dope, and you haven't figured out my zone yet. It's a basic effing 2-3 zone, and you can't figure out with all the weapons how to counter it. Like, it's fantastic. But, when I played, zones weren't in vogue yet. The only team I really remember.
Did you guys play them in spurts, though?
We did.
Did you guys ever play them in spurts?
So Don Nelson, who was really, really creative and thinking outside the box, would put us in it. And it's why we lost the Western Conference Finals to the Spurs. Steve Kerr came in and hit like 5 threes, and we never came out of our zone in 2003. When I went to Phoenix, the team that I really remember kind of throwing us off of our offensive rhythm, and we were a really good offensive team, was the Seattle Supersonics and Nate McMillan, and they played more of a matchup zone. But it was used just to kind of, throw you off of your rhythm. Like, you couldn't run your normal sets. It took you a little bit longer. Instead of getting into your offense with like maybe, 15 on the shot clock, you were into it at like 13, 12 on the shot clock. And it doesn't sound like much, but it's a lot. Like, when you're dealing with a couple seconds to get a shot up versus having an opportunity to swing that ball one more time to get an open shot, it affects the type of shots you get. And Boston, listen, Logan, you and I talked about this on Monday. I've talked about this ad nauseum with people around me. I can't understand. There were a few plays tonight where Boston, one in particular, they got it to Jayson Tatum right at the free throw line. He turned around. He looked so uncomfortable. And so he shot a fadeaway jumper at the free throw line. But he was wide open. Like, Bam Adebayo didn't even come up. I've been yelling to get a playmaker in the middle of the zone. It's really all you have to do with that. Get your playmaker in the middle of the zone and then make Bam Adebayo have to make a call. But everyone who catches it for Boston in the middle is non-playmakers, and they don't even look at the rim, and it causes no collapsing of the defense. And now everyone's still standing home on the shooters. It's ridiculous.
Real AAU dad vibes right now. Right?
It's ridiculous.
Raja, do you feel like the Celtics got some good open looks tonight?
Yep.
They didn't always hit their shots, but they did get open looks out of the zone. Are you of the opinion that the zone?
It's what you want.
Well, you should be shredding the zone, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's what you play that zone to get them to just buy into jacking up threes, right? And when they're not making them, like they weren't in the first half and part of the second half, it's what you're going to live with. Like, I might give you a good look, Kev, from like 3, but it's the look that I want you to get because you're not making them right now, and to some degree you're settling. Now, when Marcus Smart put it on the floor and carved it up. When Jayson Tatum started like somewhere in that third quarter to figure out like, I can hit this short corner and get behind the zone and kind of carve it up off the dribble. Like, that's what we want. But we don't want to come down just on the break, 1 pass, 2 passes. We're going to shoot the corner out of 3 when we're like 2 for 30, you know? And I feel like they're buying into trying to beat it that way.
How has your attitude changed towards the zone, if it has at all, from a player to now not being a player? Did you hate it? Were you annoyed by it when somebody put a zone on you, or you were asked to be in a zone?
Nah, I love zones. I listen. I had no ability to create off the bounce. Like, I was not playing pick and roll. The zones were tailor made for me because all I really wanted to do was catch it and shoot. So
I have a follow up to that, Roger.
Yeah.
What do you say to the crowd of people that says zone is some sucker shit?
Okay. I mean, wait, cool. Good for you. I mean, it's producing. It's funny though. Like, if you were to go into an NBA pickup, if you were to go into an NBA pickup game, right? Like,
I have played in a pickup game.
You don't double and you don't play zones, and you could get your ass whooped for either one of those two things in an NBA pickup game. But it's all fair and love in the playoff, dog. I'm good with it.
Funniest thing I've ever gotten in pickup was somebody tried to tell us to do elevators, the play in a pickup game.
Like, you were going to run through the double screen?
Yes. So running elevators and running a zone.
Yeah.
No,
we're not
in a pickup game.
In a pickup game, for real.
Do you call it? You don't call out zone in a pickup game, do you, Kevin? Please no.
I do not.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Listen, full disclosure, at 44, I play nothing but zone in my pickup games now, just so you know.
You play, bro, but you like AARP.
Just so you know.
You are playing half court only in your slides right now. I don't even, like, you might pull a hamstring or something.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact.
I do want to get back to something. We talked about Jayson Tatum. We talked about him briefly, but I do want to get back to Jayson Tatum. Was scoreless in the first half. Came back and dropped 28. KOC, you said that Jamal Murray has been more impressive in these playoffs than Jayson Tatum. I don't disagree with you. But what does Jayson Tatum have to do to reach that next level? What is going on? Why did it take so long for him to get on the board tonight when this is a big game?
With Murray, I would say we've seen higher highs. We've seen some lower lows from him too, but like the heights we've seen Murray reach are higher than we saw Tatum reach. Tatum's been better overall consistently, especially if you factor in defense. But with Tatum, I think the main thing is, like we talked about a little bit earlier, it's the ability to consistently get to the rim, draw fouls, finish at the rim with his left hand especially. He's very righty dominant around the rim, and sometimes that gets him into trouble. The shooting ability off the dribble from 3 is there. He can hit from mid-range. His passing has improved. It can continue to get better, and he's a very, very good overall defender and man-to-man, great off ball. He checks a lot of boxes. He's already a borderline top 10, maybe top 15 player right now. To me, that final step for him, in addition to improving everything all around, because he's only 22, is the at-rim finishing. That sticks out to me.
Right. I agree with you, because if you ask any great scorer what happened how they got from low 20 points per game to 30 points a game, it's getting to the free throw line. It's because that opens up a whole nother level of your game, and it gets you in a better place. Let's go to the YouTube. Let's go to the YouTube comments. We need some more of these. No more Kevin O'Connor puns. As much as I love those. Question. I want to say this for Roger, because he's a front office guy. What is Kentucky feeding these kids? Davis, Herro, Booker, Murray, and Adebayo. What's in the water in Kentucky?
You're talking about, like, they're all McDonald's All-Americans, bro. Like, Kentucky, they're not feeding them. They're great players. Calipari's a great coach, and clearly iron sharpens iron. So when you're in there practicing against pros every day, your level is going to improve. I think the better question is, like, how does Calipari get all of those dudes who have way more than you could ever see at Kentucky to buy into doing what he asked them to do at Kentucky?
It is pretty amazing. Like that year with Devin Booker and Karl Anthony Towns doesn't hit a single take a single 3-pointer. Booker doesn't really run any pick and roll at all. At all. That year, I believe he had like 6 possessions running pick and roll. And now look at what he is today. And that probably speaks to sometimes the character of the players, doesn't it? To buy in together for, the greater good of trying to win something more. And I'm sure, the ability to go to Kentucky, a reputable school, and whatever else comes with it as an incentive. But probably more than anything else, it's like we're talking about with Miami culture, Kentucky's culture, trying to win championships.
Another question. Is Brad Stevens, this is a messy question, very messy.
Mm-hmm.
Is Brad Stevens actually a top coach in the league? He really struggles to get effort out of his players.
Listen, first of all, I don't know about the effort part. I'm still going to say that Brad Stevens is one in the upper echelon of coaches in the NBA. I don't want to oversimplify this, but I can't help but do it. If you can't figure out that damn zone, I have questions. I just do. Like, I've watched him operate. I know he's a really good coach. I know that schematically he can flip it up. But if you can't counter a zone, and he's not in the minority, so I should give him a pass. There are a lot of NBA coaches, you throw a zone at them, they don't really know what to do.
And but for context, he is in the Eastern Conference Finals right now.
He is in the Eastern Conference. I know. So but like I'm worried. Like yes, he is. But Eric Spoelstra's better. How about that?
That's fine. I mean, I think Eric Spoelstra's a top 3 coach in this league.
Right. So all right. I don't want to take anything from Brad.
I think that's fair. Stevens is a top coach, but Spoelstra's better.
Right.
Yeah. They said that Raja Bell is the rookie of the year at the Ringer, unanimous.
Oh, word?
I'm with that.
Appreciate it. Thank you. No, I'm having a blast. You guys are. Hey, listen, Logan, KOC. Like I've told you guys before, I feel really welcome here, man. You guys make it really easy, so I appreciate it.
Oh man, real humble brag. Okay, Rook. All right, Rook.
Thank you. Y'all need some donuts or some coffee? Can I get you something?
Krispy Kreme. No, Randy's. Go to LA. Give me some Randy's donuts.
Bet.
Bring them back up.
No. Logan has shown more overall versatility writing about music on the website as well. I'm just saying. We gotta get you writing, Raja. Come on.
You said you're a staff writer.
I did. True that.
So, all right. Let's some quick questions before we get out of here. Mark Spears tweeted this out. He said that Miami coach Eric Spoelstra says that Bam Adebayo is icing his wrist, but did not offer anything more in terms of possible severity. Should we be scared? This is from Mark Spears of ESPN's The Undefeated. Should we be scared right now? Should Miami be kind of spooked?
No.
If probably not. But if he's out for an extended period of time, yeah, you should be definitely scared. But we'll find out what happens in the coming days. I'm sure. Could just be he hit it awkwardly.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I mean, he played the rest of the game. I think it'll be fine. Yeah. Where do we see this series going? Is it over in 5 or what's going on right now? What are we doing?
I feel like Boston takes one, right? One more.
That's the one in my heart of hearts, I think Boston takes one, but I can't. The problem in this series is that Boston is just getting out toughed by the Heat. And so while you would think that they should take one, like I can't ever count the Heat out of one of these games because they're the tougher team. They just show it over and over and over again.
Is this the year where we think that, like back, the Lakers were a team that just wasn't tough enough to win a title? Do you think that the Boston is a year away if they don't win this time? Just because they need that toughness? I'll go with KOC first.
Yeah, I feel like they, look, this is Tatum's 3rd year, his 2nd time being the leading scorer on a team that's made the Eastern Conference Finals. Went to 7 against LeBron and the Cavs, now playing a really tough series against the Heat. If you haven't taken your lumps after those 2 runs and last year too, even though you didn't make these finals, I feel like they're a young team in terms of age. You saw some of the youth tonight with some of the sloppiness with the turnovers, 19 to only 8 for the Heat. I feel like you got to look at them as a team like the Heat that are only going to get better in the coming years because of these experiences.
Yeah, I think it's in front of them. My bad, Logan. I do think though that they're going to have to tinker around the edges of that personnel a little bit. I don't know that. I don't have the answer. I don't know who's on the market, but as currently constituted, I think they're going to have trouble. I don't know how high the ceiling is for that. Now they're in the Eastern Conference Finals, so I wanted to say that in the same breath. But I think that there's a piece for me. There feels like there's something missing there.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got a question from Ryan Nansen. Will the Heat eventually have to trade Tyler Herro to acquire a 3rd star in Miami? I don't think so because he's on a rookie deal.
Like you hold on to that happily, next 4 years until he hits restricted free agency. You got to pay him then, and you're probably going to happily pay him at that point if he keeps on getting better like this.
For sure.
No doubt.
Let's go into we got a little bit of time. Let's go into some Nuggets Lakers preview right now. Now we know that the Nuggets took game 3, and Jamal Murray said that we should be up 2-1. Now I don't know. I said this before. I don't like that argument that we coulda, shoulda, woulda if this would have happened. Argument. He's probably right, but there's a reason why you're down 2-1. Am I right by that? Am I right to think these things when I hear a quote like that?
I think you're right to feel like that, but the reality is from a Denver perspective, that's the only way you can spin it. I mean, that's all they can be thinking in the locker room, and when you have that level of confidence versus like, damn, we're in a 1-2 hole, like that can really change the complexion in your mind of the series. So I think that's the way they have to approach it. But I'm with you, man. Joker goes crazy. You blow an assignment. You had ample opportunity to win the game, and you didn't. So I don't want to hear that you could have.
On that last possession, though, we talked about this pre-show. I'll get you in a second, Kevin. On that last possession, when Plumlee is out of position, it's after a block from Murray. There's a time to call a timeout, but the Nuggets don't call a timeout. If you're a coach, Raja, do you call a timeout to make sure that your defense is settled, or do you just let it ride the way the Nuggets did?
That's a tough one, bro, because most NBA guys don't like they don't like to burn that. But I think, that's the beauty of Anthony Davis, right? Like, I'm not answering your question, but that's the beauty of Anthony Davis. Like, you might forget that his skill set is going to put one of your bigs in a chasing situation that they're normally not in. And like Mason Plumlee, like, it was his fault, but it's not his fault. Like, that's not anything that he does on a regular basis. So, if you're Mike Malone and you can make that come to those like conclusions that quickly, then yeah, you got to burn the timeout because you got to make sure he knows his job. But that's the situation that an Anthony Davis talent puts you in.
I'm with Raja there. I think, like, more than anything else, the end of that game entirely, with AD, he did things that are abnormal. And sometimes you just got to give credit to the player, hitting the step back 3, hitting the 3, coming off the screen. It was a blown defensive assignment, blown switch there. But again, like you said, that's not something that you're necessarily geared to do. And like the idea of the Michael Malone calling a defense there, calling a timeout there, is really interesting to me, though, because like we saw later that night in the NFL game, Pete Carroll calls a timeout when the Seahawks are against the wall in the end zone with the Patriots driving. They end up stopping Cam Newton on a design run on the final play. Maybe sometimes you don't know how the results are going to be here, but I do think there was some logic to a timeout there. But ultimately, though, either way, like if the Lakers still score after a timeout, people are pointing the finger at Malone. It's a lose-lose situation for the coach, and you got to trust your gut in that situation, and that's obviously what he did.
All right, let's go. Quick predictions. I think you said that Boston and the Nuggets, and the Heat Celtics series, you said that Boston's getting another one. So Heat in 6 for you?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Heat in 6. I have Heat in 5. What do you have, Raja?
I'm going to take the Heat in 5 as well, Logan.
Okay, let's go Lakers Nuggets.
Ooh.
What do you have in there?
I'm going to take the Lakers in 6. I said 5 originally, but I think it goes 6.
I'm going Lakers in 6 as well. Kevin.
Ditto to that. I had Lakers in 5. Let's change to 6 now.
All right. Now, this has been the Ringer NBA show post-game live on Twitter and YouTube. Tap into the mismatch. Tap into group chat. And most importantly, tap into the Monday NBA Ringer show. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
You know what I mean? Tap into that.
It's true.